already feeling offended knowing that there are 1-star reviews of my favorite books on the internet. However, today I am going to lean into that offense and go head to head with these reviews in order to defend some of my most beloved books. So I'll be reacting to 1-star reviews of 6 books in all of the 3 KidLit audience categories. For picture books, I have chosen Come on Rain by Karen Hesse and Real to Me by Minh. For middle grade, I have chosen Merci, Suarez Changes Gears by Medina, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor, as well as Brother's Keeper by Julie Lee. And for YA, I've chosen Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. Now let's get my feelings hurt. Come on Rain is just one of those books that I go back to over and over again. I actually have it in 2 different translations. I have it in English and I have it in Korean because I love it so much. Thankfully, there are no comments for the 1-star reviews. I knew that I had faith in humanity. But there are a few 2-star reviews, so let's see what they say. I'm not a fan of overly lyrical books, at least not picture books. This was the story of summer drought and how to beat the heat. Okay, that's fair if you don't like vivid descriptions, rhythmic language, or poetic prose. Well, if that's the case, I feel like I need to understand the line between what is lyrical and then what is considered overly lyrical, because the lyricism is my favorite part of the book. So I do not believe that it is overly lyrical. I think it is just the right amount of lyricism. This book was lengthy for me and I lost interest as I was reading it. It could be used during a time of drought if we are going through one at the time. I'm unclear about the general length of books that this person reads. I don't think Come on Rain is maybe more than 1,000 words. So I hope for this person's sake that they are comparing it to other picture books and not just books in general. I can definitely understand this in terms of board books and perhaps even in terms of industry standards. Probably most 32-page picture books will range around 300 to 500 words. But would you really consider around 1,000 words to be lengthy? Please put them in the comments because I need to know your opinions too. And I personally read Come on Rain in and out of drought season, so I'm not entirely in agreement with this person that it should only be read during drought season. Although I think you could read it in drought season and feel comforted that rain will one day come. I like the illustrations better than the text on this one. Who in blazes put a spoonful of sugar into cold iced tea? Don't teach children to fail. Maybe it's Nestea, but it aggravated me. Also weird that one lady has a Victrola when everything else is modern. Also weird that moms are all wearing stockings on the hottest day of the year. #quibble. Okay, it is clear that this reviewer does not like sugar in their iced tea. Nor do they believe that you can have vintage musical equipment in your modern house. It also seems that they were not born during a time when pantyhose were a clothing necessity for women. But is that the reason to give Come on Rain 2 stars? What about the narrative and the lyricism and the longing and community and the narrative prose? Did none of that matter because the women were wearing pantyhose on a hot day and there was sugar in the tea? I cannot think of Real to Me and not almost want to burst into tears every time. The silences for me in the book are what speaks the loudest. There are very few 1-star reviews and none of them have comments, so that's a relief. But we do have 2 2-star comments and they are essentially making the same critique. The first one says, not really a story, although I did enjoy the twist at the end. No story but a twist. The second one says, I miss picture books that tell a story and are not simply affirmations. I'm going to look up story really quickly just so that I can make sure that we are all on the same page about the correct definition of story. According to the dictionary, a story is an account of imaginary or real people and events told for entertainment, or an account of past events in someone's life or in the evolution of something. See, we are here to learn. Now that we all know the definition of story, I can vouch, according to this definition, that real to me is indeed a story. Sorry, reviewers. You may already be aware that I think Merci Suarez Changes Gears is the pinnacle of narrative perfection. And I'm not the only one, because it won the 2019 Newbery Award, which is one of the most coveted awards in the field of children's literature. And for those of you who are curious about the novel, I will go ahead and leave my review video for you in the description box below. This book was supposed to be about the struggles of a family. Was it? Not really. The book is mostly about 12-year-olds acting like they are 16, crushes that are dumb, forcefully mean girls who are unrealistic, but hey, every kid in this story is unrealistic. Who cares if she and her brother are scholarship students? Nobody would in real life. But apparently, if you are smart and middle class, you are so different. This book was hardly about family in any way. It was a book about a 12-year-old trying to act like she was 16 and unrealistic mean girls who acted like devil's daughter. Seeing that the title of the book literally has Merci Suarez in it, I'm not entirely sure why this reviewer thought that the book was solely focused on the Suarez family. The title hints to us that the protagonist of the text is indeed Merci Suarez. So don't get me wrong, there is a huge plot point about the Suarez family in the novel. One of the most compelling plot points is the relationship between Merci and her grandfather, Lolo. And then there are similarly other plot lines that develop as a result of his declining health. Now, as for this 12-year-old acting like 16-year-olds, as a girlhood studies scholar, I can actually confirm that this aging up concept really is a legitimate phenomenon within the social construction of girlhood. And if you want to learn more about that social phenomenon, I highly recommend reading the book 7 Going on 17, which is edited by girlhood studies scholars Claudia Mitchell and Jacqueline Reid-Walsh. Found it to be boring and rambling. My students won't connect with it at all. Poor choice for the Newbery, but the award just isn't the litmus test anymore. It's more about being PC. Won't purchase a hard copy of it. Not worth the money. Apparently, me and this reviewer did not read the same book. Boring. How is Merci Suarez boring? The inciting incident literally happens within the second chapter. And if you weren't compelled to keep reading about what was going to happen to Lolo and the twins, then I honestly, I don't know what else to tell you. As for the hard copy, I actually have a hard copy that is very well annotated and thick thanks to having the version of the large text. And as for this reviewer / teacher believing that their students wouldn't enjoy Merci Suarez, I actually have taught it in my undergraduate classroom about 9 times, perhaps it's even 10 times this semester, over the past 4 years. And amongst my students, Merci Suarez always comes out on top. So I would recommend that this teacher give their students the opportunity to read Merci Suarez before discounting it as a book that their students would enjoy. I'll also leave my video in the description box below about why and how I teach Merci Suarez in my own classroom. Within the first few pages, the MC applauds her friend for, quote, bending a rule or two and, quote, changing an answer for a friend when we're self-checking a quiz. Since when do we publish books for children that support cheating? Regardless of the author's intention, people, especially children, do learn from books. If you give a child a book in which the MC supports cheating, they're going to learn that cheating is okay. It's not, and neither are you. Is this reviewer saying that Medina is not okay? See, this is why you can't trust people's reviews, because that is actually not what's happening in that scene. Merci does not applaud Edna for cheating. She's actually questioning Edna's morals as the teacher's pet, who is supposed to be the rule follower and not a rule bender. So for context in the novel, Edna is the most popular girl, and particularly in this scene, Merci is trying to sort of kind of get within the good graces of Edna and her social group. So Merci says that she knows a shortcut to the gym because they are going to get their school pictures and they don't want to get all sweaty. And then when Merci suggests this, that's when Edna gives her a side eye as if she is morally inept. But then Merci side-eyes Edna as if to say, you have done much worse than us cutting through the field in order to get to the gym. It really is unfortunate that this person stopped reading the book, or what I assume to have stopped reading the book, because they misinterpreted the scene that happened on page 2. I hated this book, but I have my reasons. I was forced to read this over the summer by my school, and I was so disinterested. A big time waste when I could have enjoyed my summer. Plus, when I found out nobody in school actually read it, I felt like burning the book. This sounds like misplaced anger to me. I can't imagine that reading this one book ruined your entire summer, like your entire summer, one book. Plus, I mean, can't you be happy that you actually went through with completing the assignment? I mean, that says a lot. You should be proud of yourself for successfully doing what the school required you to do. Is that no? I actually don't know one person who was like born after maybe 1980 who hasn't read this book as a part of their K through 12 requirements. So some fun facts about the book. It won the Newbery in 1977, and it is the 4th book in a series about the Logan family. I don't think most people know that it is a part of a series, so I'm curious if you have read any of the other books in the series, or if you were also required to read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry as a part of your early elementary education. I truly had high hopes for this book, as it is highly recommended. However, I'm completely dissatisfied by the whole story. The whole story is against racism, and yet all whites are evil and racist except for a few exceptions, and all blacks are hardworking and good except for a few exceptions. The characters are all boring and one-sided, and has little to no character development. All of the characters are so similar that you get mixed up with who's who. Also, there was too much description. We do not need to devote so many pages to a history of the Logan family. Honestly, no one cares about the Logan family history. This was a terrible book, and don't buy it. Seeing that the book takes place in 1930s rural Mississippi, I'm going to say that yes, the experiences of the Logan family is around racism, and so the book is actively against racism. I would also disagree that the characters are boring. I mean, yes, you can acknowledge that perhaps the viewpoint of the novel is one-sided, seeing that it is told from Cassie's perspective, who is the Black girl protagonist of the novel. But point of view shouldn't be condensed into just thinking that the book is quote-unquote one-sided. Also, I wonder if this person knows that Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry is one of 4 books about the Logan family history. So there's a lot more history that they are perhaps unaware of because they're not realizing that the book is a part of a longer series. I am currently ending my year of 6th grade. My grade was required to read this book within 1 to 2 weeks, for which stressed me out. Understandable. I dislike this book because it just seems to be repeating it. It even makes me feel bad about myself being white, honestly. I also think I disliked it because I was forced to read it in such a small amount of time in school, for which is stressing. If you enjoy books about the past years in the early 1900s about racism and learning about history, I do recommend this book for you. It's nice that they still gave a recommendation. If you don't enjoy reading about books in the past banned racism, I don't recommend you reading this. I don't find that you will enjoy this. Okay, so I can understand that this reviewer was perhaps stressed out as a result of having to read it under such a short amount of time. But as for the book making her feel bad about herself, I mean, this review was written about 11 years ago, so perhaps she could be in her early 20s. I mean, I hope she would have a better perspective. And then I would also encourage her to think about not centering herself when it comes to reading this book and using it as an opportunity to learn about someone else's experience. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, more like Roll of Thunder, I Want to Die. I had high hopes for this book. It was one of my assignments for school, and my teachers, knowing that I loved to read, told me I would enjoy this book. Great that a teacher gave it as a recommendation. Although I don't usually read historical fiction, I do love history. However, this book taught me almost nothing. Set in 1933, during the Great Depression, we are introduced to the Logan family and read about their struggles with racism and racial injustices. So you did learn something. But throughout the story, there was such an excessive amount of details that continued to be repeated throughout the entire book that it became repetitive and boring. I cannot see any way how the characters developed, and to be frank, I thought the characters were very annoying to read about. I literally wanted to cry every time I had to read this. But if it was just a book that was recommended, technically you could have stopped. They would always disobey their parents and put themselves at risk of being killed or seriously injured by the KKK. And were honestly so dense, they continued to put themselves and their family in harm's way, even after their parents explained the dangers to them. This book was supposed to spread awareness about the struggles the Logan family and other Black families had to face, such as racism and financial struggles, since they were living through the Great Depression. But this book was so boring that reading about the Great Depression gave me depression. I honestly would not recommend this book whatsoever and was disappointed by the writing. The story has so much potential, but it was all put to waste because of how repetitive and dull the writing was. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry made me want to die. I thought I was speechless from the last one, but I think this one takes the cake. I mean, there's so much to this review. It's obvious that the student did not want to read the book, even though it doesn't seem like it was required, but they kept reading. They're acknowledging what they learned, even though they claimed that they hadn't learned anything. Really, this reviewer should be critiquing the social and political views of the day as opposed to critiquing the children who were just trying to be children and live their everyday lives. So I'm curious, if you were a teacher, how do you teach Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry in your classroom? Is it required reading? Do you recommend it for students to read on their own? And what kind of lesson plans are given when Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry is being taught? Is it part of a history lesson or language art lesson, or perhaps even a social justice lesson? I have to admit, I am super, super curious now. Now, when it comes to Brother's Keeper by Julie Lee, I still have a very visceral reaction to thinking about when I read this novel. It is such a good book, and it honestly made me cry. It seems that there is only 1-star comment review, and so let's see what it says. DNF for around 25% and skipped forward to reading the ending. Wow, this book is written with a 12-year-old protagonist and around a 12-year-old reading level, but it's a war story that pulls no punches, around the level of Grave of the Fireflies, which I've never read. The beginning is fine, even hopeful, but once it has the reader hooked, it becomes progressively grimmer. I feel sorry for the kids who will start this book and get too invested to stop when it gets mega depressing. So it seemed like this reviewer was hooked by the plot, but then I don't understand why they gave it 1 star. I'm also confused about the DNF, but then they're acknowledging that you will get hooked as the reader. And I would also say that no, this book isn't depressing, although yes, it is filled with grief and war and death, but I wouldn't categorize it as depressing. This reviewer is also not acknowledging that there are themes of hope and perseverance and strength that are very much a part of this narrative as well. I cried during the last 25% of the novel, so I'm actually really shocked that this person DNF'd at the first 25%. There is a sequel that I recommend reading as well. It is not as grief-stricken as the first novel, but it definitely pulls a punch as well. I actually really enjoy Julie Lee's writing, so I'm hoping that she is writing book 3 as a part of the series, but only time will tell. The story of a brother and sister fleeing North Korea felt like it went on forever. I can agree with that, and I think that is the point of the novel, for it to feel like they are in this limbo and they are in this really terrible situation forever.
Forever. Forever. Forever. Forever.
They are literally fleeing from North Korea to South Korea during the winter, and they are in danger every step of the way. So yes, it was heartbreaking to watch them be in danger for so long, because even as the reader, we want to get them out of that danger. But doing that would be a complete disservice to the story, as well as to the stories of those who actually experience this. Lastly, we have Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant, which I can see that there is a lot of negativity around the protagonist's relationship choices. If you watched my review video, which I will leave in the description box below, you will know that I actually appreciate Elise Bryant giving us such a flawed main character. So I'm going to read one of the reviews that don't spoil the main conflict. Only finish this book so I can give it 1 star. How? At least I can appreciate the fact that this person finished it. Not that I'm against DNFing books. I think every reader has the right not to finish a book that they're not enjoying. But the fact that they now have full evidence from reading the full book that they did not like it, I can at least give them props for that. The next review says, DNF at 59%. My God, I couldn't take it anymore. The plot development was almost non-existent. Not too many events took place. The main character consistently self-sabotaged herself and is very rude, self-centered. She can also be very mean to her mom as well. She just wasn't a likable character. The only thing I liked about the book was her friendship with Caroline, but other than that, this book fell very flat. Just from a craft standpoint, I do think that it is important for readers to know that there is a difference between character-driven novels and plot-driven novels. So I don't think you should fault a character-driven book for not being a plot-driven book. It's just like watching a romance and saying, well, it should have had more action and more blares, because it's not a Marvel film. And to be fair, around Tessa being unlikable, I mean, she was going through so much. And watching Tessa go through all of these changes was the purpose of the book. So yes, she's flawed, and yes, she's making mistakes, but the whole point of the novel is for you to root for her as she experiences her coming of age. So if you like flawed characters and if you like romance, I still highly recommend that you read Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. That is it for today. I'm going to go cry in a corner, but as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.